Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, a major conference and a new airline land in Indianapolis. We take you inside the new Fisher's Test Kitchen. Trendiana takes a look at hidden food gems in small towns. We shine a spotlight on an effort to help Hoosier workers with drug issues. Girls Inc. marks a major milestone. A Ball State professor plays a role in the NBA All-Star Game. And our panel of insiders weighs in on the top business stories of the week. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. Last week's Roots America conference brought about 800 airline, airport, and tourism representatives from throughout North and South America to Indianapolis. It came the same week a new airline announced it would come to Indy. Indianapolis Airport Authority Executive Director Mario Rodriguez joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to talk about the major developments.
First of all, we'll get to that announcement of a new carrier at the airport, but the Routes Americas conference. This is really a big deal. Big deal that it landed literally here in Indianapolis, the first Midwest city. Didn't go to Chicago.
Absolutely.
Came to Indianapolis.
Think about it. 3 times in its history, it's been here in the United States.
Yeah.
The first time in the Midwest, and they picked Indianapolis, not Chicago.
Yeah. We'll talk about the event. Several days, about 600 plus decision makers here. What's the impact of that?
Well, it's a huge impact because, remember, these are the decision makers that decide whether a flight goes into a place or not. Mm-hmm. The power of the conference is that it's here in Indianapolis, here in Indiana. So they were thrilled with everything. Now they understand what Indiana and what Indianapolis is all about. Mm-hmm. And this was all thanks to the Governor Holcomb, and the mayor hosting this. It was a phenomenally intelligent idea to bring this conference here.
Yeah, and you can even put some short and long-term dollars, right? Economic impact.
Yeah, the short-term dollars are $2 million. Mm-hmm. It's a $2 million impact immediate, and there's a $40 million impact long-term, which is that's just a conference without any additional flights, without anything.
Well, speaking of additional flights, during the conference, you made a big announcement. Contour Airlines, Tennessee-based carrier, will be establishing a base here with employees and also adding some routes.
Oh, absolutely. It's fantastic because it's an airline that's over 30 years old. Mm-hmm. It's operational, and it'll be connecting 3 places that we've never had connections to. Mm-hmm. St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and Nashville. We had them in one time, but we've lost them a long time ago. But this connects strong business markets, and it eliminates drive times for people that actually have to drive to them.
Yeah, as you look at that mix of nonstop flights from the nonstop to Paris to the tech destinations and now these regional destinations, it's quite a mix, and the most nonstops, right, at the airport?
The most nonstops ever. Just think about it, Gary. 5 years ago, this airport had 33 nonstops. With this announcement, we have 53 nonstops and over 150 flights on a daily basis, and that doesn't include FedEx. Those are just passenger flights.
Yeah. Before we leave that, the nonstop flights, certainly the Paris nonstop has, by all indications, been going well.
Paris nonstop is doing phenomenally well, and the passengers going into Europe are trending in the right direction. So in other words, there's more Hoosiers going directly into Europe, because it's just natural, plus the stimulation of the flight.
Additional nonstops, been a lot of talk about it. Governor Holcomb was on the show last week and kind of hinted that he expects there to be more announcements. Kind of talked about Europe, maybe a London nonstop, Japan, Germany, Mexico.
We've been looking at different targets: Mexico City, London, Japan, and Governor Holcomb has been instrumental in driving this vision. Because we're just a reflection of what's happening in the state. Mm-hmm. So in other words, we make sure that we underpin the economy. We don't drive the economy, and the economy is being driven extremely well by the government, by the governor, and the mayor's staff. I mean, it's trending in the right direction.
Let's talk about the airport. 7 straight years, North America's best airport.
7 straight years, North America's best airport. Actually, one thing that we don't have to explain what the award is, J.D. Power's #1 airport in the United States.
And part of that, it's not just flights, it's the experience, and you're doing a major overhaul, right, of the retail offerings. Talk about how that's going at the airport.
It's going well. We have an incredibly strong combination of local and national brands. We've opened up several already. We're going to be opening up even more. We've opened up FAO Schwartz, something that everybody remembers, at least I remember from my youth. And also we've opened up Mac and Toomey and several other stores for the travelers.
Yeah, and that's an important part of that experience, right? As you made the decisions on the types of retailers, the types of restaurants you want to put in there, some of them, a number of them local too, that local connection, right?
We've been incredibly thoughtful in choosing the right combination of concessions. And one of the visions is also to try to keep the money that generates at the airport here locally.
Yep.
So we're concentrating on buying local, bringing in local concessionaires, and making sure that we don't export this economic impact.
Mario Rodriguez is the executive director of the Indianapolis International Airport Authority. Mario, as always, thanks for being on the show, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Still to come, Trendiana looks at big gems in small towns, and we spotlight an effort to help keep the Hoosier workforce drug-free. But first, a new restaurant accelerator has officially opened its doors in the yard at Fisher's District. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redman was there and has more on the Fisher's Test Kitchen.
The culinary scene in central Indiana is booming. And to help continue that momentum, the city of Fishers is one of a handful of cities in the country to open a culinary accelerator in hopes of growing a pipeline of local chefs.
We chose 3 young chefs who wanted to test a concept, create their own restaurant. We have 3 completely independent restaurants working within the Fisher's Test Kitchen. So this gives them a chance to build a following, kind of refine what they're doing. So we have tried to kind of de-risk the process of opening a restaurant in hopes that we can help create more restaurants and build the culinary community.
And that's exactly what Test Kitchen chef Carlos Salazar says he plans to do.
I want multiple restaurants, whether it's in the north side, obviously I want in the north side, back in Fountain Square, just all over Indy. You know, I'm not looking to go anywhere else. I want to stay in Indy. I want to grow with Indy, with the food scene, and I want to make it better.
One of our biggest contributions is going to be that we're capturing the imagination not only of our locals, the chefs, the businesses, and the communities, but we're also capturing the attention of those that are visiting Indianapolis maybe for the first time, or contemplating relocation of a business, or maybe adding a new flight from Indianapolis to another location. When they see what's happening here in the innovation economy, plus what's happening in culinary, I think it makes the whole region that much more viable to everyone.
Even the airport sees the positive impact a strong local culinary scene is having on the region.
We've seen a lot of excitement from our guests from around the world to experience the culinary scene. You may know that we've been rated nationally as it relates to the food scene. A lot of national magazines have focused in on the importance of the food scene. And if you take that even further from an economic impact, we're such an agricultural-based state. And so for the ag community to then tie into the culinary scene, it brings culture, it brings business, and it brings it all together.
And Gary, talking about bringing business to the city,
right.
The Big Routes Conference that's been here this past week. One of the deciding factors, they were really impressed with Indy's culinary scene.
Right, yeah.
So it's attracting businesses and people to the city.
And more people want locally owned restaurants, and that means that demand for chefs increasing. Fisher's, entrepreneurial, innovative city, they're kind of a launching pad now maybe for some of these chefs.
Exactly, and the Test Kitchen is the perfect place to start because you don't take on all that risk that you would if you were opening up your own restaurant.
Interesting story. Thanks, Mary Rachel, as always.
Later in the podcast, businesses statewide can get help with employee drug issues, and Girls Inc. hits its golden anniversary. But now, you don't have to go to the big city to find big flavors in Indiana. Smaller towns like Munster, Greensburg, and Warren, Indiana have a lot to offer as well. Yelp Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith has more in our Trendiana segment.
We were talking off camera, you know, there's always been these little here and there cool places in small towns around the state. It seems like there are more and more of those around the state.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to see how these pioneers who are starting out these new restaurants, Bridges and Greencastle, the impact that it has once one business does it and the trickling effect to all the other locations around the square, it's a really fun process.
Well, you've got some nice examples from around the state. We begin in Northwest Indiana, in Munster, Indiana, and it's Bomber's Barbecue.
Yes, this business has made our top 50 places to eat in Indiana list for Yelp data, and they are known for having over 500 reviews, 4.5 stars. So you got to get there early because they do run out of the barbecue dishes that they're known for. Some of their top trended items are the Bang Bang Shrimp, the Brisket Barbecue Sandwich. It's super delicious. They're known for slow and slow is their technique.
Very good. Opened their doors in 2013, so about 7 years old.
Yes, exactly.
Well, let's go east of Indianapolis to Greensburg and Mayasari Indonesian Grill.
Yeah, Greensburg, you know it for the courthouse with the tree growing right out of it. Mayasari is located right across the street, so you can actually eat your meal and look up at the courthouse and see it. They have a 5-star rating, and Indonesian cuisine is hard to come by in the Midwest, so they're one of the few spots throughout the only in the state and in the Midwest. But if you're new to Indonesian cuisine, recommend trying the beef rendang curry, the chicken satay, and they've also got a sampler where you can kind of try some new things and hopefully learn something new there.
And interesting to me, anyway, that you see these international cuisine, not just in Indianapolis, but in smaller towns like Greensburg.
Yeah. It's a beautiful example of an immigrant that came over and how that's had an impact on the neighboring businesses and factories, too.
Yeah, very good. Okay, let's go to Warren, Indiana, which is between here and Fort Wayne, right?
Yes, exactly.
On the way to Fort Wayne. Golfo di Napoli Dairy.
Yes, and hence the name. It was 2 family members that came over from Naples, Italy, and started this business just last year. It's 35,000 square feet of this chic creamery is the best way to describe it. It's beautiful. They've got a cheese counter. You can order cocktails, artisan sandwiches, a lot of Italian products, made in-house gelato. So you can go there and make a whole afternoon of it. They're making their own burrata, mozzarella. It's really beautiful.
In Warren, Indiana.
Yes, and using all Indiana farmers milk, too.
That's a great story. And our final stop, I think, is Bridges Craft Pizza and Wine Bar in Greencastle. I've been there. It's great.
Exactly. I know that's one of your favorites. We've got Bridges, and then we've got Artisan. Bridges Craft Pizza in Greencastle. They are known for their artisan pizzas made in-house. They've got 3 stories, including a rooftop where you can overlook the square. It's a beautiful setting.
And you mentioned it up north. We go to Elkhart and Artisan.
Yes, Artisan. This is a great one for Valentine's Day reservations, a little fancier. They've got a beautiful wine by the bottle and glass menu, and they're known for their scallops and their lamb chops.
And very quickly, though, and Bridges is a good example in Greencastle, but these others, too. It's really helping the downtowns, the economic development, the vibrancy of these towns.
Yes, you can think of so many different cities throughout the state. Richmond, Indiana is another great example. Beautiful new businesses making an impact.
Brittany Smith, as always, great content, great information from around the state of Indiana, small town gems. Thanks for being here. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Gary.
Okay.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, Girls Inc. celebrates 50 years, and a Ball State faculty member will have an impact on this year's NBA All-Star Game. But first, transmission and security solutions provider Belden in Richmond has gained national attention for its program to work with employees and applicants with drug-related issues. The same program it uses will now be made available to employers throughout the state. Indiana Workforce Recovery Director Mike Thibodeau and Mental Health America of Indiana President Steve McCaffrey spoke with Kylie Valletta in the Business of Health.
So it's part of the Indiana Workforce Recovery. This program is under that umbrella, which is part of the chamber, but this is open to all Indiana companies, not just chamber companies. So explain how the program works. It's basically started when the person fails a drug or alcohol screen or even self-reports. So then what happens?
Sure. So through a partnership with Centerstone Behavioral Health, we're working to deliver a model whereby Hoosier employers are able to retain talent that fails a drug screen or onboard talent from an applicant side of the perspective that can't quite get in the door because of a substance misuse issue. So companies all across the state have people that are qualified for work, that they're excited to onboard, but who they can't bring in the door because of what happens during the drug screening process. This gives them an ability to take an active role in the treatment process and really help people continue to move along that spectrum and retain and gain gainful employment, which is big difference for their recovery.
Right, exactly. A key part of the recovery. Steve, some people say businesses should be more involved in overcoming the opioid crisis, all substance abuse issues in Indiana. Why is it so important for businesses to join the game, to be part of this?
You know, we really do think that businesses should be involved, and Mike's done a great job in coordinating that effort. You know, we know that as a society, we have been slow to respond to behavioral health issues, specifically the opioid epidemic. And we've probably been slower in the employment sector than many of the others. And at the same time, we know that there's a real economic cost to businesses. When they have employees that have issues with behavioral health issues or the opioid epidemic, we know that productivity goes down, absenteeism goes up, costs go up. We know that they are having difficulty hiring employees that can pass a drug screen. So ironically, businesses are perfectly suited because the issues here are actually measurable in economic cost.
And we talked about how this is an award-winning program, and that's because it's been going on for a couple years at Belden, a manufacturer in Richmond. Explain, Mike, how did Belden really lay the framework, the groundwork for this program that's now statewide?
Sure. So they were looking at their workforce and they were considering, you know, we're having some issues with drug testing and the results that are coming from that. We want to be able to retain these people. What do we do? So they brought some partners to the table, and in working with Centerstone and coordinating with some community organizations, they developed a process by which people get individualized treatment plans. They have a system of care team that exists not only from the medical side of it, but also within the workplace, where a group of individuals who care about these individuals meet on a regular basis and just kind of discuss where they're at. They help with social supports like transportation, housing, different things that are kind of tangential, but often can get in the way of somebody getting help. And they've also found a way temporarily to move people off of safety-sensitive work into a non-safety sensitive capacity so those individuals can retain employment with the organization while participating in treatment and beginning their journey of recovery, which can make all the difference in the world in their outcomes.
Right, 34 success stories at Belden, so now expanding that program statewide. Only a few seconds left, Steve, but the legalities, there's legal issues involved, but those have all been ironed out, right?
They have, and we were able to pass legislation in the Indiana General Assembly in 2018 to bring all of these parties together. The Division of Mental Health and Addiction, working with Mike and the Wellness Council, came up with some good business practices for employers that want to help their employees receive treatment and keep their job. And we'll be pushing that around the state. Businesses that want to participate in this program can do so, and they'll receive immunity protection under the statute.
Good news for employers and workers. Thank you both for being here and telling us about the program.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Later in the podcast, we introduce you to the Elam ending, and our insiders take on the top stories of the week. But now, Girls Inc. of Greater Indianapolis celebrated its 50th anniversary this week with a big event at Clues Memorial Hall. The organization has made a major difference for girls over the last half-century and has big plans moving forward as well. Girls Inc. President Elisa Campadonico-Barr came in studio with more.
I think a lot of people have seen the Girls Inc., you know, the logo, the name, familiar with it, but give us a kind of a thumbnail sketch of Girls Inc. and what the organization is all about.
Sure. As you said, our mission is to inspire all girls to be strong, smart, and bold, and what that really translates to is we're helping girls to be healthy, both mentally, physically, during all of the changes that happen in their lives from 6 to 18, which is our demographic age. We're helping them to be educated by ensuring that they graduate from high school on time and that they're economically independent in their future. They don't have to be a leader in their community or in work without the reliance on a partner, and also that they have all the self-confidence in the world, a real focus on the development of the whole girl, that no matter where they come from, what they look like, that they can bring their whole selves to any situation, whether that's at school, at home, and eventually the boardroom.
Yeah. And we should note that Girls Inc. has a major presence in Indiana, not only the national headquarters here, right?
Yes.
But 7 the local affiliates around the state?
Yeah, so we have, Indiana, a little known fact, we have the most Girls Incs. Of any state aside from California. So we are raising strong, smart, and bold girls throughout the state of Indiana, which is really exciting for us.
And how you do it, because I know 10, 12 years ago, so you kind of changed your model from kind of a club-based model, if you will, to a situation where you actually go into the schools, right?
Absolutely. So we used to be a club-based model, actually the girls' clubs of Indiana and Indianapolis, and switched our model to do what we call an outreach program where we are serving girls in the schools. Transportation is always a barrier for parents and folks with whom girls live with, so we took the programming to the schools. Instead of serving hundreds of girls a year, we now serve thousands of girls a year and work in really close partnerships with almost every single school district in the counties that we serve.
Well, I mentioned this is a very big year, or I guess last year technically, right, would be the big year, 50 years old, 50th anniversary.
Yes.
You've got a big event coming up.
We
right?
do. 50 years. We opened our doors in October of 1969. So much progress for women and girls since that time, but we have a ways to go. Our big event to celebrate our 50th will start, it'll be February 10th at Butler's Clues Hall. We are bringing a world-renowned speaker, Dr. Tara Trent, who is just an inspiration and speaks to the power of your own personal story, your journey, and of course a focus on girls' education empowerment. She's Oprah's #1 favorite guest. I've heard that she's amazing. Never seen her in person, but we're excited to have her and bring about 1,500 people to Clues Hall, including many girls who will be inspired.
That'll be a great event, February 10th, again at Clues Hall on the campus of Butler University. Elisa Campo-Danico is the CEO at Girls Inc. Elisa, thanks very much for joining us. And congrats on all you do, and we'll have you back on the show sometime.
Great. Thanks so much, Gary.
Still to come, perspective on the top business stories of the week from our panel of insiders. But first, the NBA All-Star Game will have a new twist this year thanks to a new scoring system created by and named after Ball State University professor Nick Elam. It's part of an effort to honor the late Kobe Bryant. Elam joined Bill Benner on Inside Indiana Sports.
This is really, really something. Before we get into the background of it, just give us a quick synopsis of what will take place at the end of the NBA All-Star Game next week.
Sure. So I'm a lifelong basketball fan, and so the idea of this concept is not to change basketball. Really, it's to do the opposite, to preserve that more natural style of play through the end of every game. So the Elam inning in a nutshell is that you play most of the game with a clock, and you play the last part of the game without a clock. There's different variations that you could use, but the NBA is going to use a format where you have a clock for the first 3 quarters, and then for the 4th quarter you play without a clock, and you have to set a target score, and you play without a clock to that target score.
Okay, and so if the East team is ahead 110 to 100, this year because of Kobe Bryant, they're going to add 24 points, so the first team to 134 would win.
That's exactly right. So you come back, it's still, you come back from the break, it's still 110 to 100. Playing first team to 134 wins. And the idea is that if you've got the lead, you can't just stall and play passively. You have to keep playing assertively to get to that target score. If you're behind, you don't have to foul and hand away free points. You can still get good defensive stops. If you're behind and you're on offense, you can keep getting your best look. And the whole combination of factors makes the outcome of the game less predictable, makes late comebacks more likely, and somehow, some way, the game's going to end with the swish of a net, so you get that memorable game-ending moment.
And you came up with this concept again back in 2007, but it's not untested. It's called TBT, the basketball tournament. ESPN is made for programming, summer programming. They have a tournament, and they've been using this format.
That's exactly right. So again, it took me 10 years of reaching out to different people in the basketball world before someone took a chance on it. And TBT was the league that wanted to try it out. And they were the ones who actually gave it the name, the Elam ending. And so they tried it out on an experimental basis in 2017. And this is a version really that I prefer, where you would only get rid of the clock for the last few minutes of the game. But they liked it so much there that they've gone all in with it. And they use it across their full tournament in 2018, 2019. And they're going to use it going forward. I'm really excited for this year's edition. They're going to have a Purdue alumni team in TBT this year.
Interestingly, when the NBA announced that they said, well, we're going to go with the Elam ending, they didn't identify who you were. But what was it like when you got the call from the NBA offices and said, this is your deal, we're going to go with it?
It was very exciting, and in some ways it felt surreal, and in other ways it felt extra real, because I had envisioned that kind of a call so many times over the years, and I just knew that it was only a matter of time before it would have this kind of a breakthrough, and it would get this chance on the biggest stage. We're going to see the best players in the world on one court using this format. And so the NBA called me and gave me heads up that there would be an upcoming announcement. They said they wanted to show their appreciation and that they're going to send me to All-Star Weekend with the guests to take it all in
Nick,
person.
As we wrap up real quickly, also there will likely be, in Indiana doing sports gambling now, sports wagering, there will be a prop bet about who hits that game deciding shot in the NBA All-Star game.
That's right. So if you think that LeBron's going to win it with the dunk, or maybe James Harden's going to win it with the three, who knows? But yeah, you can wager on that along with many other things. So this is tailor-made for here in the boom of sports wagering.
And by the way, his role as a professor at Ball State's in educational leadership, so it has nothing to do with sports and basketball. Congratulations. This is a very cool concept. Can't wait to see it play out at the NBA All-Star game. Have a great time in Chicago.
And finally, our insiders take on issues including the Roots America Conference and a major jobs announcement by Amazon. This week's panel includes Stand for Children Indiana Executive Director Justin Ohlmiller, Giselskis Brinkerhoff and Joseph attorney Hannah Kaufman-Joseph, and Winston Terrell Group Principal Robin Winston.
Lots to get to this week. I mentioned the Roots America's Conference. Justin, a coup for Indianapolis to get that. Third city in the United States to host this, and they first in the Midwest, and they chose Indy over Chicago.
Yeah, big win for Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I think the other key piece of this is, if you're trying to attract more direct flights to your airport, and you can say a lot about Indianapolis Airport, it's world-renowned, it's award-winning, but we still need to see more direct flights in our city. Yeah. This is the conference that can generate that conversation and see some wins for the airport in that way.
Yeah, and it was a real opportunity. We had Mario Rodriguez from the airport on the show earlier in our top story. He said, we weren't making any deals there, but it was certainly a chance to make that sales pitch to these airline executives, airport executives from all over the globe.
Yeah, what a great opportunity to put Indianapolis in the spotlight. What a perfect group of people to show them the type of strides that Indianapolis has made with our culture, with our restaurants, with the amenities of our airport. And it seems like we kind of have the right mix of the state and the city and our tourism leadership working together to bring a really attractive opportunity that could yield tangible outcomes for the city.
And it was mentioned in our story we did earlier in the program, the airport said that really the culinary scene in Indianapolis and central Indiana, which continues to emerge, was one of the factors that Roots America said, hey, we like that culinary scene. It's one of the reasons I chose Indianapolis.
Well, that's just so exciting to hear because it's exploding and it's being noticed all over the place. Nationally, Indianapolis has really been put on the map with awards from Bon Appetit to restaurants like Milkooth and Bluebeard, and there's Late Harvest Kitchen. There's been so many great restaurants that have just really exploded in their popularity and recognition.
Big economic development news early in the year. We saw Toyota with a big announcement, Fiat Chrysler up in Kokomo as well. This week past, we confirmed plans by Amazon to locate another major distribution facility. This one in Hancock County could employ up to potentially 1,000 people. Robin, another investment in that distribution logistics sector for Indiana.
Tremendous. And Amazon's going to pay $15 an hour to start, offer their employees benefits, match 401k at 50%. Those are all very positive attributes. 600 to 800 jobs, not far from I-70. I mean, just continues the expansion of jobs in central Indiana. Tremendous win for Ambrose Development, which built a spec building. So literally build it and they will come.
And they will come, right.
So it was a tremendous opportunity. It's great for Hancock County.
And for the region, as you look at the economy, not everything's Indianapolis, but Hancock County, the eastern part of central Indiana as well. Also big news this week, well, we dug it up, but the Logansport, they're a bat company in Logansport, Titan Bats. And I know you like that story.
I love this story.
Entrepreneur, Trampus Young is the guy's name. He learned how to make bats a few years ago, and he's knocking it out of the park, pardon the pun.
Right. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, what I think is so intriguing about this story is it's kind of the the hobby business that has evolved into a viable revenue producer. And I find it remarkable that people can start their businesses out of their garages, which is literally what's happened in this case.
Right.
He had 1,000 square feet that he was making these bats, where he was making these bats. And I think last year he said he did 3,000 bats, and he's on track to double that this year.
Double it and move into 5,000
square feet.
Yeah,
and he's made this incredible business opportunity out of a hobby, out of a pastime. And I think it's so rewarding for him, and also a really kind of a good encouragement to other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and the Hoosier Bat Company got up in Northwest Indiana is another success story.
Right, and right across the river is Louisville Slugger.
Yeah,
so
down south.
We've got all that.
Very good. Also, big news, kind of of a negative nature, but Diamond Chain, a company, a manufacturer that dates all the way back to 1917, provided components for the Wright brothers, Henry Ford, been a staple downtown for many, many years, closing the facility. So it'd be a loss, but prime property there for sure.
For sure. And we talk a lot about the wins in Indianapolis and Indiana. Certainly there are always going to be businesses that do not survive. And so this is a hit. But hopefully, like you said, prime property and opportunity for the next company in that space.
And Robin, you just mentioned they painted.
Yeah, they painted the smokestacks blue and white.
Yeah.
But look, that's a tremendous place for a hotel or some more restaurant scene across from a stadium that's going to be home of the college football championship and NCAA championships. Great location.
Won't be vacant for long, probably. When that's good. Electric Works, too, we should mention a big project in Fort Wayne, the old General Electric campus up there. Ambitious project, Robin. They've really, I don't say struggled, but it's been a challenge to get an anchor tenant and get the financing together. They got another extension. I think they will get one here shortly. The state is saying they're close to, they feel, getting an anchor tenant up there. You think that's going to happen?
I think it's going to happen. Mary Henry has made a commitment to try to do something there. They've been diligent in making sure tax dollars are used wisely for this project, but Fort Wayne is a regional headquarters. So Defiance, Ohio comes across to Fort Wayne, and that's, it's a very important anchor for that whole region of Northeast Indiana. I believe that this will come to fruition.
Yep.
So I think that what's so interesting about this project is that IURTC has committed to taking space in Electric Works, and what they really bring to the table is a new outpost to support would-be entrepreneurs, would-be small businesses with obtaining patents, with doing research and development. There's a real need in that specific area, and it would be a great way to diversify the different types of opportunities and offerings that will be available at Electric Works.
Yeah.
Their support I think will help get it done.
Yeah, the IU Research and Technology Corporation, great point on that. Workforce is another issue, big issue, continues to be for the state of Indiana. Ivy Tech has launched a new career initiative, got $8 million from Lilly Endowment to help fund that. I think part of it is aligning students with companies and curriculum and making sure everyone's on the same page throughout their careers, not just at the end.
Yeah, in this economy especially, it takes more than just the academics and the knowledge and know-how. It's also a matter of helping these students be ready to jump into the workforce and understand how to navigate our workforce and be able to fill out a resume, be ready for interviews. Those are skills that also we're starting to see drop down into the high school level, as well as we try to see that continuum between really birth all the way to career as part of our education space. And so it's a great investment that Ivy Tech has earned, and I think the endowment, a great move on them for them to invest in this important program.
Another impactful move there. Only have 20 seconds. I know, Robin, you want to make a point about, well taken too, about Edgerrin James getting finally and deservedly getting into the Hall of Fame.
Right. He deserves it. He is part of the offense that led us to a Super Bowl. Quality player, but laid back. If you listen to the news stories, laid back. He said he waited that morning and let them come to him. He wasn't up all day, but tremendous win.
Very good. Robin Winston, also Hannah Kaufman-Joseph, Justin Oldmiller. Thank you, one and all.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.